Hi, friends. Thanks for joining me today in the Mindful Compassion Practice session. I am incredibly excited to be sharing with you one of the most meaningful mindfulness practices that I've learned to engage over the years and now find that it's a practice that I return to on a daily basis. And so I hope that you will find some benefit to these two practices that I'll be introducing to you later in the session. These are brief, easy, accessible practices. I actually refer to them as the back pocket practice because it's a practice that you can take literally anywhere. It's a practice you can engage when you're in the midst of stress or conflict or suffering at work, maybe in the midst of an argument with a loved one, perhaps even standing in line at the grocery store and you're on your way to a meeting and you're late and there's a long line, and noticing when that stress response starts to kick in. And so, taking a moment to breathe and acknowledge that we are all under an enormous amount of stress today. And so, while the flavor of stress may be different for each of us, whether that is the deadlines or projects from work, or this stress from a complicated relationship at home, or even from the ongoing pandemic. I know many people are COVID weary, COVID fatigue, and so all of these accumulate and really increases the stress load that we're carrying. And then you add to that the fact that we live in a very fast-paced culture where we're not given many opportunities for pausing, for taking care of ourselves, but that ever ongoing to-do list just seems like each day we're adding to it. And so these are very accessible, easy practices that can help to bring an immediate sense of relief to whatever situation that you happen to be facing. And so I just want to begin by first talking a little bit about mindfulness and compassion, and just share with you that, when I discovered compassion practices about 8 years ago, it was awkward for me to engage them. So I just want to full disclosure and acknowledge that right up front. In my home growing up, compassion was practiced, but it was practiced in more subtle ways. It wasn't practiced in an overt way, in a way that was very obvious as a child. And so when I came to this practice as an adult, there was a sense of even embarrassment and some awkwardness in it. And so if you are coming to compassion practice and it's new for you, or if it's something that's not necessarily new, but you're experiencing that sense of awkwardness, and that's okay. I just want to reassure you that it doesn't mean anything has gone wrong, that it's normal. Many people find the practice uncomfortable at first, and so I just want to encourage you to hang in there. Give the practice some time to deepen and to ripen, so to speak, as it has for me. And I believe that you're going to find great benefit to practicing it in your life. So maybe you saw the title of the video, Mindful Compassion, and you thought, okay, I'm familiar with what mindfulness is, and I try to practice compassion in my life towards people that I love and care about. But what is mindful compassion? Why not just talk about just compassion practice? And one of the reasons why I am calling this video a mindful compassion is because of how I have engaged compassion practices in the past. And what I have found, at least for myself, to be really beneficial is that mindfulness is really the precursor or first step into engaging in compassion practices. And I'll explain a little bit about that. And so our intention as we engage our meditation practice. So, let's, for example, consider our formal sitting meditation practice. We're able to do that in a quiet space where there's no distractions and really work with our sense of attention and focus, learning how to bring awareness to our experience internally, externally. And we're developing this in order to have greater mindfulness then as we move into our day, okay? And so mindfulness allows us to have that first step of awareness of what we're experiencing, awareness that there's stress in the body, noticing I'm beginning to feel overwhelmed, I'm holding tension in my body. And so as we engage our meditation and mindfulness practice, we develop mindfulness of the body. And this is incredibly empowering. You know, a lot of us, when we are stressed out, we're not even aware we're feeling stressed. It feels overwhelming. It triggers a sense of urgency and anxiety, and the cortisol level raises and triggers our fight, flight, freeze response, and our executive functioning shuts down. And our lens becomes very narrow as our body is taking our energy into the immediate situation of just defending and protecting ourselves. Well, in emergency situations, that's exactly what's called for. So, narrowly avoiding a car accident or encountering a dangerous dog, we appreciate those times when the body, by default, takes over and works to give us an immediate sense of protection, preservation. Unfortunately, because of all these other factors of stress we're juggling with in our modern society, we can carry a high level of stress, and our cortisol, the stress hormone level, can stay at a high consistently and in a daily way. And so cortisol levels that are high in an immediate threatening situation is helpful. But when we're consistently overreacting to the stress that's common in our daily life, we know because of research and physicians, they've warned us that it's a detriment to our health. It diminishes our immune system, hinders our sense of working with others, cooperating, hinders our relationships. Irritability can set in, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness. It's not a space for us to be living from and moving in day to day. And so mindfulness gives us that awareness then before the body has a chance to automatically resort to its default reactive mode. If we are aware, if we have enough awareness in the early stages that stress is present, we can pause, take care of ourselves, activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what compassion practice does. And it allows our blood pressure, the heart rate to lower. Compassion practice has been shown that it provides a sense of calm, it provides a sense of safety. And so rather than reacting, and often we can have regrets of how we're reacting in stressful situations, mindfulness and compassion together give us just that little bit of space around the situation to pause, breathe, and invite more wisdom, more skillfulness, and allows us to respond to the situation rather than react. And so I really encourage, if you haven't started a mindfulness practice yet, even just starting out with 10 minutes a day and gradually lengthening that practice, that will assist you in developing mindfulness of the body and the heart. And so when you find yourself in situations where stress is triggered or anxiety, or feelings of being overwhelmed, you're then able to pause, take a breath, you're aware, and then access one of these practices, perhaps today, that you learn about, or other practices that can assist you in responding in ways that are helpful and more beneficial. And so I just want to say a little bit more about the research behind compassion and compassion practices, and first acknowledge Dr. Kristen Neff, who is the trailblazer behind much of the research on compassion today. So we have well over a decade now of research that shows compassion practices activate, as I said a moment ago, the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what we want. That area of the brain that's responsible for the care system, feelings of feeling safe, feeling calm, instead of the fight, flight, freeze response that is associated with the pain network in the brain. And that's where the feelings of the tightness and pain and suffering enter into the equation. And so how do we know this? Well, we know this because of fMRIs. And this is the beautiful thing about contemplative neuroscience with all this wonderful research that's emerging. What we have found is that participants in many different studies, as they recall painful situations, and we have the fMRI right there that's showing the parts of the brain for the pain network light up, meaning they've been activated. And when they introduce a loved one that offers them a supportive touch or a compassionate touch, or even words, supportive words or words of compassion, you can see on the fMRI, the brain network, the different regions, the pain network is no longer lit up, and instead what lights up is the care system. And so the parasympathetic nervous system gets activated. And then the heart rate slows down, the blood pressure, and there's a real sense of well-being. Now here's where it gets, in my opinion, incredibly fascinating. Research shows that as far as the body's concerned, it doesn't matter whether it's a loved one or a friend that's offering the supportive touch or compassionate touch or offering words of compassion, or whether it's ourself. We're able to activate that care network and bring a sense of calm to ourselves by our showing up when things are hard or stressful. In just the same way we would have a lover or friend show up for us, or in the same way that we would show up for someone that we care about that's experiencing distress. So this is incredibly, it's exciting, and it's why we're hearing more and more about compassion practice and the need, not just within hospital, clinical settings, within schools. We're finding compassion practice being brought into the corporate world. A lot of leaders are attending workshops and trainings, wanting to understand compassion practice better. And I want to just mention briefly here that compassion and empathy are two different traits. And so while research has shown that empathy is important in understanding what another person is going through, prolonged feelings of empathy actually can lead to burnout and fatigue and a sense of feeling weary. Whereas compassion, when we're having a sense of compassion for someone, there's a sense of wanting to be helpful, wanting to do something, caring for them. So the feelings of empathy are associated with, again, that pain network, while the feelings that are associated with compassion are associated with the care network, feeling the pleasant sensations. And so I know a lot of times people can confuse empathy and compassion, so I just wanted to provide that as a point of clarification. So both traits are important and they have their place, but in terms of long-term benefits, compassion practice is one that really helps to build a sense of resiliency in our well-being. And so I invite you, as we take some time, to settle into our seat here at your desk in front of your computer. You may want to find a posture that brings both a sense of alertness and also a sense of being relaxed. And you can close your eyes, or you can lower your head and soften your gaze, and just have your gaze down at a neutral place. And so this first mindful compassion practice is the compassionate touch, or the supportive touch that we're going to offer ourselves. And taking a deep breath, settling into this moment. As we move through this practice, I'll be moving through the practice at a slower pace than you normally would be if you're engaging it in real time in the situation where you need it most. So for our learning purposes today, we'll be going through the movements slowly in order for you to just really get a taste of a sense of resting in compassion. And so inviting you to take a couple of deep breaths. You may want to soften and expand the belly, breathing in and allowing the breath to move up through the chest and the nose, and exhale. And you can go ahead and take a couple more deep breaths. And now taking a hand and gently placing your hand over your heart, taking a moment to feel the gentle pressure and warmth of the hand. And if you wish, you may place both hands on your chest, noticing the difference between one hand gently resting here and two. Feel the natural rising and falling of your chest as you breathe in and breathe out. Another option for engaging in compassionate touch and supportive touch is placing one hand or both hands and just applying some gentle pressure to the neck, the shoulders. You know, we have so many nerve endings just back here in the neck and in the shoulders. And research shows that when this area is just gently massaged, we also activate that parasympathetic nervous system. And so you can explore, which supportive touch feels right for you. And some other options may be your hand on your arm, applying some gentle pressure again here. And so taking a moment to allow those feelings of calm, feeling the warmth of your hand wash over you. Supportive touch, research has shown, lowers your blood pressure and your heart rate. And so just by doing the simple practice, we can help bring a sense of calm and relief immediately in the midst of the stress we're experiencing. And taking another nice, deep, nourishing breath in, softening the belly, and exhale. And as we come to the end of our practice, I invite you to slowly and gently open your eyes and encourage you after today's session during the week when you find moments where you're aware, you're beginning to feel the tightness and the stress is accumulating, to return to this practice and try it out and experiment and see for yourself what it has to offer you. And so the second practice I wanted to introduce to you is called the SelfCompassion Break. The SelfCompassion Break is another very easy, it's very accessible, the back pocket practice you can take anywhere, really, for any situation. And so before engaging this practice again, if you need to adjust, if something is feeling uncomfortable, go ahead and adjust your posture. And closing our eyes or lowering the head again. You can have a soft gaze at a neutral place down on the floor. So the self-compassion break is a practice that can be done anytime to bring some immediate ease and calm to your day. And as we begin to explore this practice, it helps if you can, in order to really make this practice come alive, recall a current situation in your life now that is bringing you some stress. You have some tension and some difficulty from it. And you can be selective in terms of what situation you're recalling in your mind's eye. So nothing that's traumatic or that's going to immediately overwhelm you. Something for the purposes of our practice and learning, something that gives you some good material to work with and yet is not traumatic. So take a moment to recall the situation in your mind's eye. With as much detail as you can, in a visceral way, noticing how the situation makes you feel. Maybe there's some pain or some suffering you're feeling in the body. Recalling from the situation who said what and what happened. And as you're recalling the situation in as much detail as you're able to in your mind's eye, I'm going to offer a few phrases, some compassionate words that I invite you to silently offer yourself. And feel free to modify these phrases in any way that helps to make it feel more natural, more real, closer to who you are. And so the first phrase is, this is a moment of suffering. This is a moment of suffering. And here we are bringing mindful awareness to the fact that suffering is present. You may say something like, this is really hard right now, or I'm really struggling with this. Bringing awareness allows us to then pause, to tend to ourselves without our body needing to, by default, interrupt, take over, move to a reactive response. It's letting our body know, I'm here. We're taking care of ourselves. We're turning toward the difficulty and acknowledging and naming. This is a moment of suffering. The next phrase is, suffering is a part of life. So we're reminding ourselves of our common humanity, that we're not alone in our experience of stress and suffering. Suffering is a part of life. And again, finding language that speaks to you. So you may offer words such as, many people are going through similar situations. I'm not alone. We all struggle in our lives. It's completely reasonable to feel this way. This is a normal experience of life. Being human means that we will experience suffering and stress. And the third phrase is, and may I be kind to myself in this moment. And here you can put your hands over your heart. Feel the warmth of your hands, the gentle touch of your hands on the chest. Or adopt the compassionate touch you discovered a few moments ago that was right for you. So maybe some gentle pressure to the neck and the shoulder, and letting the feelings of care wash over you. As we offer ourselves words of compassion, we're avoiding what often happens when we're suffering or when something difficult arises. That harsh inner critic shows up, and we can blame ourselves, and we can say so many things that are unkind about ourselves. And that only heaps suffering on top of more suffering. And so we treat ourselves in the same way we would treat a friend. We acknowledge the pain that is there. This is a moment of suffering. We remind them they're not alone in their pain. Suffering is a part of life. And we bring a sense of compassion, words of understanding and support. May I be kind to myself at this moment. And take a moment and, in your own way, come up with a phrase that really expresses your heartfelt intention of well wishes, of happiness for yourself. You may say something such as, may I be free from suffering. May I know peace. May I be happy and free from pain. And if you're, as I said before, if you're not exactly feeling the sense of warmth and compassion, know that that is perfectly fine. Nothing has gone wrong here at all. It's normal. part of engaging in compassion practices, deepening our ability to access compassion when we need it most. But one thing you may want to explore that may be helpful is to recall a loved one in your mind's eye, someone that easily evokes naturally a sense of care and love. Just take a moment to think about this individual. It could even be a pet or an animal. Just really think about this being and allow all the love that you have for them to really well up naturally in you. Sometimes it can be helpful to first imagine someone that we can very easily offer compassion and love to. And then we can invite those feelings and direct them also to ourselves. May I be kind to myself. And then when you're ready, gently and slowly opening your eyes and coming back to your surroundings. And so I invite you, as we are coming to the close of the session, to try on these back pocket practices, so to speak, as you move throughout your week. And you notice areas of tension or stress or feelings of overwhelm beginning to set in. Taking time for yourself, pause, offering a compassionate, supportive touch in a way that feels right for you, offering some supportive words of care and compassion. So I thank you for your kind attention in joining me today, and please feel free to leave me a comment. Let me know about your experience in this session, or if you take these practices and try them on during the week. I'd love to hear back from you, how it went and what was your experience. Did you find it helpful? So take care. That's all for now. Hope to see you back here again.